Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show.
Woo! Woo, woo, woo. Good evening, everybody. Jesse Montano, Megan Angley here live after Game 6, Avs and Stars. And Megan, I'm not fucking leaving. Well, I am leaving. I'm going to Dallas. We're going to Dallas for Game 7. Avs force a decisive Game 7 with a big gutsy effort here tonight. How you doing, Megan?
I'm just catching up on some of the locker room interviews that are on the feed to make sure they're getting retweeted out to everyone. So I apologize for looking a bit distracted, but I also want to emphasize how I was so not ready to be done covering this team. Look, I kind of like the idea of a Game 7. It felt like these are two good teams. Let the best team win in a Game 7 where they're both in that position of do or die. I hated that the Avs were in the elimination position going into tonight. Now it's a little bit more of a level playing field.
Yeah.
And look, there's a lot to unpack within the series, right? Like, the Dallas Stars have been without Heiskanen, they've been without Robertson, and Colorado's been pretty healthy, save for Ross Colton. They get Gabriel Landeskog back, but we've had our own issues to deal with, and some players that have had some execution issues, not showing up, and Colorado finding it difficult to open up the offensive side of the game at times and running into a great goaltender in Jake Ottinger. All of that remains pretty true, but 7 games into this thing now, 6 under our belt, it's just been really exciting hockey because it's been two heavyweights going at it the whole time, and I thought Colorado had a great response tonight, but there's still work to be done. Yep,
and to your point about getting it to Game 7, we are we talked about it going into this game. There was a lot of chatter about the percentages, the odds when you fall behind 3-2. Megan, when you get to Game 7, all that stuff gets thrown out. All of it. There's
clean slate.
Right. There's no more percentages. Oh, this team wins more. It's one game. And the Avs have the opportunity here to get over the hurdle, win a Game 7. We're going to talk about that. The Avs' history in Game 7s, Pete DeBoer's history in Game 7s, the Avs' history against Pete DeBoer in Game 7s. But again, it's no longer 72% chance this. The Avs took care of business here on home ice. They forced a Game 7. It's now 50-50. This is it. You play one game. Let's just start from the top on this one. Hard to drop a better start for the Avs. Val Nichushkin gets them on the board. Artturi Lehkonen gets on the board. And we're actually going to pause the show right here to pat ourselves a little bit on the back, Megan. Pre-game show tonight, we each picked our difference maker of the night. Megan took Artturi Lehkonen. I took Val. Pretty good first period for our predictions.
Yeah, and honestly, I think both of these picks aged well over the course of the game. Obviously, Val has a bigger impact in this game later, but I felt that Artturi Lehkonen was on the doorstep of other chances that make Jake Ottinger's life hard. And so, not to spoil the lead here a little bit, but Avs get some weird bounces that go their way tonight. But I think the way that you asked the question in the Bednar presser, I think it was you, even though some of those are weird, they did a lot to earn their chances tonight and make Ottinger make saves. I thought Artturi Lehkonen was a part of that, and obviously Val Nichushkin very successfully a part of that as well. Yeah,
absolutely, and it was just, not only was it the start they needed, but it was from the guys that they needed it to be from, and I really did. It was funny because after the first period, I felt like it was such a tone-setting way for them to start. It was everything they needed, and they were able to score early and then score again late to extend out that lead. And there was a large part of me that was like, okay, that was exactly what you needed. Now you just kind of get to go about your business the rest of this game, lock things down here, and protect the house, play your style. And it went the other way quickly at the start of the second. I thought Mackenzie Blackwood was good in the first. I thought everything the Avs did good in the first. It kind of fell off there in the second, Megan, and it gave everyone a moment of pause, several moments of pause.
Yeah. Do we want to unpack more from the first
We
before we move on to
we
the
certainly
second?
can. Yeah. What else you got?
Well, just wanted to talk a little bit about the goals specifically.
Oh yeah, let's do it. Oh, I don't know why I breezed. All right, they scored and then second
That's
period.
okay. I mean,
No. Let's start with the first one that Val gets, because again, the Avs do get some bounces here tonight, and it felt like they were due a little bit given what we saw in Game 5. But the first one takes a funny bounce, but again, it's players going to the right places.
Yeah, because you've got Landeskog there tangled up with Lyubushkin, who Val Nichushkin's shot kind of bounces off of to change the angle, which helps to beat Ottinger far side. But there's good intentional hockey that sets up this play, too. One, with Landeskog being embroiled in his guy to sort of get in that lane unintentionally, right? Like not trying to block it, but it definitely helps to redirect pucks. And honestly, you saw the Avs intentionally trying to create offense this way, going for the tip-in goal. And throwing pucks to the middle of the ice with guys there in their stick blades angle to do this very thing. So some of it I think is kind of intentional. But what I like here is how the Avs make their exit. Taves used Landeskog because he saw that he had the clearest path up ice. And Brock Nelson was also along the wall as an option, but he clearly had Jamie Benn with his sights set on him. And so this is where we talked about trust and awareness, that it probably would have felt like a smart choice to get that puck to Brock Nelson. He could probably hit the neutral zone with a little more speed than Landeskog, but Landeskog had the clearest path, and so it helps to gain that entry successfully, and Nelson is there immediately after Landy's entry to receive the puck back and get it to Nichushkin opposite him instantly. And so this all unfolds so quick, and it's because they picked the right path to make the exit and drive play north. And I just wanted to shout out that part of how this play gets set up.
Well, and so they drive north and they get into the zone, and one thing that I think, look, the score ended up 7-4, and 5 of those get by Ottinger, so it feels maybe silly to say that Ottinger had an outstanding night again, but he did. And one of the things on that first goal in particular, with what you're talking about, is not they drive the play north to push Dallas back, and then they move that puck east to west, and they make Jake Ottinger track that puck from left to right and then back to the middle. You make him move. You know, you hear a lot about, from the time you're little, how do you beat a good goaltender? Make him move side to side, get in front of him, crash the net. And I just thought that was a great example, and as we continue to talk about this, they do those things in different moments, but I just thought that was another call out on what, building on what you're talking about. Not only do they do the right things to take the right path to get in that position, they force Ottinger to get moving, and that's part of what leads to, you get kind of a fluky little bounce there, but he's not in the right position because you made him move.
Yeah, it's a good call out, and I think the other thing that we talked about in our pregame was winning battles and providing more support to your puck retrievers. And so on the Artturi Lehkonen goal, it was Taves and Necas embroiled in a battle for the puck below the goal line, and Lehkonen was just outside in support. And I thought the readiness and showing up in numbers like that was really necessary, because you saw the way that Dallas defended in their own end, and they wanted to make sure that they had the extra man in those battles. And so I felt the Avs were ahead of this and having Lehkonen there outside in support, because when that puck did eventually spring loose, Lehkonen had the quickest touch to get it to Necas, who was already drawing back, anticipating this play. And that just added support in this puck retrieval, helped for Necas to tee up Makar for the one-timer, and Johnston's stick blade caught a little bit of the momentum in the lane, but Lehkonen was able to get inside Cody Ceci at the net front. And that's the other thing, too, is I think Lehkonen played this really smartly, because he didn't immediately get inside Cody Ceci and get tangled up with him, pushing, shoving. He kind of waited an extra second to just get inside of him at the last second so that he could redirect that in off of his stick blade. And I thought that was a very tactful decision, and it all starts with them winning a battle, and I thought they approached it with a very good teamwork makes the dream work mentality.
And again, going to the net, and would you consider that one a bounce, like a lucky bounce?
I think that Johnston, his stick blade changes the trajectory of it a little bit, which Makar's shot might have ended up somewhere a little different, that Lehkonen couldn't get to it. And so I do think it's a little bit of a lucky bounce, but you have to be opportunistic, especially if you're Lehkonen, to be able to see such a quick little change in direction, because it's slight how it changes.
Well, and similarly to what I felt and we talked about in Game 5 with the Stars earning the bounces they got at the start of the game. Wyatt Johnston beating guys to that loose puck, being able to track it down. You earn the bounce. Late in the period, it felt like Dallas was doing a lot of the right things. They earned that second bounce again in Game 5. I felt like it was a similar thing here. Cale Makar has taken a beating a little bit about his performance in this series so far. And I talked about it, I think it was today, if not a couple, just within the last couple days. I think it's been a little unfair. Because I think Cale Makar has done a lot of good things in this series, and he hasn't gotten one to go to the back of the net. And that, to me, was a moment where it's like, yep, Cale Makar earned that bounce. It's not his goal, but he does so many good things, and he takes that shot from a dangerous area, and it finally lands somewhere that the Avs can do something with it.
Absolutely. It all starts with Cale Makar taking that shot. And there are other moments that Cale Makar touches this game in a big way. So I think he's due some flowers for tonight, the impact that he made. Because, he's had an impact in this series, but it hasn't been the goal scoring quite exactly. And so you see the intent, and he's finally supported, at least with his teammates, that some of his playmaking, not in this case too, like that's not necessarily the intention behind the shot, right? But it gets rewarded, and I think that's when I talked about this team being constructed to do this very thing. That's what I'm talking about. That's where you have to lean on your teammates too. When the plan A doesn't work, the plan B is also good.
Yeah. And vaguely, yes, we are clearer tonight on the stream. And yes, Mark is using smoke signals to get this one out to you. So much improved here tonight. Megan, let's move on to the second period. Dallas does come out with a big push early, and it's led by Mikko Rantanen. They get 2 quick goals inside the first 4 minutes. Before we hit the 4-minute mark of the second period, the Dallas Stars have evened this game up. And you winced for a second, and then Marty Necas gets them back on the Avs back in the lead off a beautiful pass from Cale Makar. But just what did you make of the first, because it wasn't even 5 minutes, that everything that I just described transpired in the second? What did you make of the start of that?
Well, it's easy, for me to say this in hindsight, knowing how the rest of this unfolds, but what I really admired about the Avs was their resilience in this moment, because off the drop, like, Cale Makar has a chance on Oettinger, and shortly after that, just seconds later, Brock Nelson takes the penalty. They're on the kill, and it sort of erases, like, Cale Makar clearly had a little jump to start this period, right? It kind of erases that because Hintz capitalizes on the power play right after, and then the Granlund goal happens, and Makar gets beat, and so you're starting to feel a little less good about the individual Makar game for a second there, but it's almost immediately answered for in how he sets up this Necas goal. And it starts off a rebound too, like Taves recovers this rebound in the slot, and he protects it and also gets it off quickly enough to Makar at the top of the circle, and it was a really clever play from Makar. I would refer to it as a no-touch snap pass to Necas. I don't know if you would describe it differently to that far post, but it happens in one fell swoop, and it's a quick snap of the puck, intentionally looking for Necas for the tip-in.
It's he told us after the games, I'm looking for seams. Like, that's what I'm doing out there, is I'm trying to find seams to get pucks through, and he found it. I'm actually going to pull it up to see if I have a different series of words for it. But no, I mean, it was a high skill play that, we have the benefit of watching it from a bird's eye view, right? So we kind of get that ability to see that play developing a bit. But it is one of those things where when Cale Makar makes a pass like that and threads a puck through a seam, stick Spotty's legs, to do that at ice level and to have that vision and that awareness of where Marty Necas is sneaking in. And also, we talked about Marty Necas going into this game here tonight, saying that you needed more from him. Yeah, that goal is a lot Cale Makar, but good on Marty Necas, strong on your stick, makes no mistake in getting that one past Oettinger. You got to give him a lot of credit for what he did in this game as well.
Yeah, I want to talk about Necas in a little bit too.
Yeah.
And what I like about how this is set up, whether he's fully conscious of this or not, all eyes are turned to him and Taves on the ice as the threat in this moment. And so Necas is able to sort of slip backdoor for this tip-in uncontested because of everybody puck watching the threats on the ice. Well, with Colorado, there are several threats on the ice at once, and they utilize that to their advantage, using some speed and just some quick thinking on behalf of Cale.
I just rewatched it. What's so impressive about that quick little one-touch snap pass there, is everything about his body language sells like it's a shot. To the defenders, to Jake Ottinger.
Right.
Everything about his body, his feet position, the way he follows through says, I'm putting this on net. But it was clear right on the tape to Marty Necas. And suddenly you're back to feeling good again. And then, again, it just all happened really quick, it felt like. You're back in the lead. You're back in the driver's seat. And then here comes Roope Hintz again on a little partial break, fast break, not full breakaway, and beats Mackenzie Blackwood clean up over the blocker. And you're back in a 3-3 game, and it felt like the Stars were really feeling it to me. And again, that was another moment where you said, oh, man, are you really going to head into this third period again with this up in the air on a coin flip?
Yeah, this is where, too, Mackenzie Blackwood gets beat on the Roope Hintz goal there, and Girard got beat along the wall in the neutral zone by Rantanen to sort of help turn this into the breakaway that it was. But I want to go back to the first period for a second and shouting out just how well Mackenzie Blackwood was seeing pucks early in this, through traffic, coming up with some big saves early before the Val Nichushkin goal happens, and key moments. And so it can feel maybe a little frustrating or bad, especially going into the third period where they had led in most of this game, and suddenly they've just sacrificed it, right? And it's Mikko Rantanen sort of at the source of a lot of
all
this,
of it, yeah.
right? Roope Hintz and Rantanen together at the source of all evil, and it all happens, like you say, in kind of a span of 5 minutes. So that feels a little bit scary. It feels hard for them to snap out of that mentally, because we watched how the penalty in Game 5 at the end of the period, it just kind of changed the trajectory of, in their perspective, their initial comeback attempt. And so I was worried for the Avs' resiliency.
And you could feel it in the building, too, from the fans to there was just a clench that happened at that moment of exactly what you're talking about, just the uncertainty of it. And then...
Yeah. Well, so things start to feel a little less bad because the Avs get a power play. So you're like, okay. And it's the kind where you're going to at least have a little over a minute going into the third period. So I hated the timing of it, and it was on the heels of a missed too many men call. And so that felt...
You're talking about the Mikko goal?
Well, I'm talking about how they get a power play late in the period, but it's after a call was already missed ahead of the Mikko goal. And so that felt bad, and it just felt like, great, a power play, gee, thanks.
Yeah.
But you felt a glimmer of hope, too. Like, okay, well, they can come out at the drop the puck in the third period, and if they could just capitalize, then all will be well, right? Obviously, narrator voice, like, things played out differently, and it ended up being okay, but...
Yeah. Well, and did we talk about the Mikko goal?
Not yet.
Okay, all right. So that was the part where, everything that you're just describing about the way that it's feeling and all that stuff, you're kind of tense, and then it felt a little bit like a gut punch, which was interesting given that you still had a whole period to play. But Mikko Rantanen picks up his 4th point of the period, scoring a goal, beating Mackenzie Blackwood, and suddenly you're having flashbacks to last year saying, Matt Duchene eliminated these guys last year after really being pretty quiet throughout the series. And it's taken Mikko Rantanen a while to settle into this series, but clearly he was feeling it tonight. And you're sitting there saying, is this about to be Mikko Rantanen that sends the Avs packing in Game 6?
It did have a bad, heavy feeling.
Yeah.
Especially, honestly, Mikko's role on the power play goal for Hintz. It was so classic Mikko that I hadn't seen him quite do that yet in Dallas, but he used to do it on the Avs power play all the time. And he fully turnstiled Josh Manson in the process. And I think the Mikko Rantanen goal just is when you realize he's fully on, right? Like, this is kind of full moose mode for him. And what made it feel bad, too, is it was a normal play in the Avs zone end. Girard has the puck, he rims it along the wall, hoping Drouin will battle it, because he obviously has a little bit of pressure. He's got Cody Ceci, but Ceci pins Drouin, and there's no chance. And so Hintz comes away with that puck and gets it to Rantanen, who beats MacKinnon, streaking down the slot. And that is where it felt bad then. Like, this is a fully charged Moose right now. And it did have shades of the way that Matt Duchene ended Colorado's season last year.
So, you're just... At least for me, I was kind of sitting there as we're going through the intermission, and it's like, I don't know what's about to happen on the other side of this. Suddenly, Dallas is playing with the lead, which is right where they want to be. And it's like, okay, well, given the way that Jake Ottinger has played, given what we know Dallas can do to shut you down when they have the lead, I don't fully know what we're going to get here. And how quickly things kind of slid away from the Avs. In the second, Mackenzie Blackwood gives up 4 goals on 9 shots. You're saying, is this it? Are we sitting through our last intermission of the season? And Megan, for me, it was the urgency at which the Avs came out to start the third period that made me say, all right, we might not be done here.
It was urgent. I was worried that their decisions with the puck, it still looked like they were fighting it a little bit early.
And let me interrupt you just really quick. Nate talked this morning, and someone said, how do you avoid pressing? And he said, yeah, we don't play good when we press. So I like the urgency, but it felt like they were pressing a bit.
It did. And so they were fighting the puck a little bit, but the intent was right. And that's where you say urgency. That's exactly the word that I would use. And so urgency also lends itself to belief, right? Like they're urgently playing because there's still a belief that they can get back in this game. And I don't know if they're fighting at that point too to take the reins fully, or just like we need to survive this period and get this to OT. I'm glad that they thought bigger than I was just thinking right now. But you look at the Val Nichushkin goal, it kind of feels perfect that it comes from him to tie things back up too, just with him opening the scoring and being the player that we've seen make such a difference in games that's been a little quieter over this series. And so I think it's born from them repeatedly doing the right things leading up to it. Even though it wasn't necessarily rewarding them, a couple bobbled pucks here and there, they were relentless in pushing past some of that initial struggle. And I think lesser Avs teams have been caught up in that struggle, right? The word press you're using there, I think sometimes it's been hard for them to get out of their own heads with that struggle early on.
What was the word that that Jared Bednar used post-game? He said, we're trying not to... He didn't say panic. I'm going to have to go back through and re-listen to it. But exactly what you just said, Jared Bednar summed up in a very similar way.
Probably way more eloquent.
but just like, they're trying to avoid doing that. But then comes one of the quirkier goals that you're ever going to see. Quirky might even be a pretty generous way to describe that, especially for it to go on being a game winner. But Nathan MacKinnon drives to the net. Jake Ottinger comes up with the first save. Dallas Stars go to clear it out. Do you know who shot it off of Blackwell?
I thought it was Nate.
No, it was a Dallas player.
Oh.
Yes. So the puck kind of is sitting there. Dallas defenseman goes to clear it, and they shoot it right off of Blackwell, and it pops up and lands in the net. About as lucky of a bounce as you can get, Megan, but again, I just go back to this, and with you use the word intent. I felt like the Avs came out in that period and played a way to earn a bounce. Now, again, that is a hell of a bounce to earn. But, hey, you go to the net, you do the right things, you cause havoc in front, and those are the types of things that can happen.
Well, especially when the Avs have just tied it up and you're Dallas and you're trying to clear pucks from your net front and you react kind of quickly, you might not always make the best decisions under pressure. And look, I was just talking about how the Avs aren't making the best decisions at the start of this period.
Sam Steele.
So, that feels very vindicating.
Sam Steele shoots it off of Colin Blackwell.
That just kind of neutralized the Sam crime in the universe. But you talk about how the Avs are battling this exact pressure too, and they're trying to get back in this game, right? And I just think that kind of mistake is what this series has come down to in a lot of ways. Because the Avs have obviously been on the bad end of this too, right? Just a game ago. So I think it's a maturity thing too. Like, you have to be so calm under pressure. And look, those weird bounces happen. I mean, we just saw the Avs on the bad end of them a game ago, but they'll take those bounces because you use the word earned them. Like, they earned the good bounces that Ottinger stopped, right? Like, they really did a lot. You look at the high danger disparity tonight in terms of the quality chances that Colorado created. Colorado earned getting a couple of weird ones because they were certainly doing a lot right to create real good chances.
Do you have a shot total at the end of it? We go down by the tunnel, so there's
48.
48. Okay, so there's a bunch of
26.
these like little, the last little bits of tallies and stuff like that we can sometimes miss. But, you know, Megan, that is 2 games out of the last 3 where the Avs are within 3 shots of 50 shots on net. And again, for me, I think that just goes a little bit back to what you're just talking about. They did the right things. Jake Oettinger, look, gave up 5 goals in this game, but Megan, it could have been 8 or 9 if he wasn't playing the way that he was.
He was rock solid. There's several chances that come to mind that he just point blank denied Colorado. Yeah. And the passing play to set some of these up was brilliant, and he was tracking it perfectly. And so the Avs did a lot of things early in this game, too, to kind of address the ways that they've struggled offensively, and I appreciated the versatility in how they created. And ultimately, that versatility did reward them, even though it kind of happened in a weird way. Also want to point out hits 45-19 in favor of Colorado. Now, I know you pointed out if you're hitting, then you're not in possession of the puck. Colorado has kind of defied that in this series, that when you look at the metrics game by game, you know, Colorado has outpossessed, out-hit, outshot Dallas. And the thing I was going to say is there is, unfortunately or fortunately, there is a metric to still decide who is the better team, and it's the win. And so it's been really hard, you know, to look at some of the analytics coming out of this series so far and see that the Avs have consistently played hockey games like they did tonight and have gotten a very different result. And so that's how thin the margin has been. So I'm not, you know, doing a backflip over this ledge going into Game 7. There's still a lot of work to be done. And seeing the pushback from Dallas in the second, it's still a little scary to think about, but I'm very proud of the resilience that they showed.
They're so opportunistic, the Dallas Stars. They're so opportunistic. They do not need a lot of room. They do not need a lot of chances. All right, let's begin to wind this down a little bit here, Megan, because we got more season left to cover, so we don't have to lay it all out here tonight. Let's begin to wind this down just a little bit. 2 things in particular that I want to get to before we get to the Super Chats. One is that goaltender duel. Let's just peel one layer back further on that. I think Mackenzie Blackwood has been very, very good in this series, but he's had his moments where he's maybe not been perfect. And Jake Oettinger, maybe you could follow that same kind of storyline of has been elite in this series. I think there's a real argument to make, Megan, for me, that Jake Oettinger is the reason why we're not sitting here waiting to see who the Avs are playing next, St. Louis or Winnipeg already. But just your thoughts on that goalie duel, especially tonight, 2 goalies that saw a large disparity in shots, but going into the third period, it was, you know, right there. I
personally felt good about the officiating tonight. And I felt like this was a very good viewing of the goaltending. Poor Mackenzie Blackwood maybe doesn't get the best example in this, what I'm about to say, but it did feel like it was more 5v5 hockey than we've seen in most of these games, because there's been a lot of calls both ways that kind of disrupt the flow and defer to special teams. And so tonight, it felt like a clear example of what the hockey is. And so then I get a better idea of what the goalies are. And so I really saw Jake Oettinger for what he was tonight. And that's an incredible goaltender who was forced to make big saves. I've seen more of Mackenzie Blackwood in other games this series. I don't think tonight's like the best example for him. And honestly, just because he wasn't as on his game as I've seen him earlier in the series. But on the whole, it's been the difference maker. But it's for both teams. You know, there's a couple of games where I think Mackenzie Blackwood is the difference between Dallas coming away with a bigger lead than they were able to get or keep, you know, and maintain over the course of the series.
Well, and then the other thing, you know, I said this to you and I said it to Arif Dean, Colorado Hockey Now, up in the press box. In that third period, like, Mackenzie Blackwood locked it down. You give him credit. Bad second period. No 2 ways about it, Megan. Like, not what you need in that moment. But he had an opportunity to erase it once his team tied the game up, and he did that. Other thing I want to talk about quickly was Cale Makar. He does score a goal tonight. It's an empty netter. But that maybe is one of those moments where it just takes the edge off just a little bit. You're not staring at a goose egg in that column anymore. And that might help him break out a little bit here in Game 7.
I hope so. You know, it feels like the last 2 games he's shown strides in addressing the ways in which Dallas is specifically trying to shut him down. And so I think that he's coming away with some learning from these last 2 games in particular. So I don't think it's any coincidence, too, that he's breaking through a little bit more. Because I think, you know, the assist that he picks up on the Lehkonen goal, That's just a highly skilled play. So he
100%.
should really wear that as a badge of honor. In addition to, obviously, the empty net goal. Maybe he doesn't wear that as proudly, but also to learn that Pete DeBoer makes 80% of his pre-scout around him and Nathan MacKinnon.
Yeah.
You got to wear that with a little pride then. With some of the challenges that he's faced, it's very much by design with the game plan that Pete DeBoer has come up with. And so Cale Makar, I think, is showing those steps forward to breaking through some of how they've tried to shut him down specifically. And that's why I'm hoping for an even bigger Game 7 from him.
There we go. Let's get to these super chats here. We got 3 in the hopper right now. $5 from LA94. Mark's got the super chat lights going. He's got them going. Really annoying to see DeBoer whining about bad officiating and bad bounces after Game 5, where they benefited from both of those to the extreme. I did find it a little, I won't even say funny. I found it interesting, Megan.
Look, I have a lot of respect for Pete DeBoer, so I'm
Ton of respect
genuinely
for Pete
confused
DeBoer.
trying to give him some benefit of the doubt. Like, was he making a broader criticism about the officiating in the series on the whole? Was he specifically talking about tonight where he felt things were off? Did he think
Specifically
Bischel?
cited bad bounces and officiating decisions.
I wonder if he thought Bischel, like the Bischel play should have had a call, because that also seemed when his mood switched in the post-game presser,
Yes.
that seemed to be about where it started and how he answered that question about him. So I wonder if it stems from that where a player was injured, but I also didn't think there was a call on that play.
Somebody-
It was a freak collision.
Right. And yeah, good that Bischel was able to come back in this game, no doubt
Yeah.
about it. That was a scary scene there for a moment. Someone made a comment to me right as Pete DeBoer wrapped up. They said, I don't know if I've ever seen a coach go from a 3 out of 10 to a 9 out of 10 over the course of one press conference.
Yeah.
Like, Pete DeBoer was calm, cool, collected when he walked in, laughing, making jokes. And by the last 3 questions, he was, like, upset and, stormed off is maybe a bit dramatic, but he was quick to get out of there. No doubt about it. $5 from LA94. Thank you very much. $9.99 from Midnight Gobble. Those super chat lights are going again. You can see it. Hey, you guys are great. Sorry, I think I caught Megan a little off guard when I said hi to you at the game.
You did not. I'm assuming this was on the lower bowl when I was standing by a giant Nathan MacKinnon poster. And if that was you, certainly not. I love it when people recognize me in the wild. I'm caught off guard because I don't expect to be recognized, but it means a lot to me when you guys say hi.
Me?
No, exactly. Like, are you talking to this guy? No, I'm gesturing at the Nate poster.
$9.99 from Midnight Gobble. Thank you very much. And then last, we got another one that came in late. We got 2 more. $5 from Miss Truly. Cue those lights. It must have been so fun to be there. The crowd was electric. Megan, I told you partway through this game, I said, Denver sports fans it's such an underrated sports city. Fans are passionate. They're into it. They're smart sports fans. And they understand the moment.
Yeah, and they can create moments, which I kind of like too. You know, there was just a period where every brief form of contact on the ice was met with roaring applause and cheers. But you know what? I have to feel that gets the players going, and it just adds
Feed
to that
off of it.
electric atmosphere. And so they were definitely responsive to the real moments in the game too, but just kind of hyping up everything. And so you felt that difference from the crowd tonight. There were times too where I'm not going to explain it well, but just something about the bass that's created with the music that's playing. I've never heard it get that loud except for the Landeskog night.
That's $5 from Miss Truly. Thank you very much. Last one here, $1.99 from our guy, Vaguely Sober. W, go home, get some sleep, fly safe, Game 7, get W.
Get W.
Shout out to Vaguely. He sent me a photo earlier. He already has gear for both new PWHL squads that were just announced this past week.
gosh.
Already rocking the gear.
I'm so jealous.
Big shout out to our guy Vaguely over there. That's gonna do it for tonight, folks. I'm gonna give a big shout out to Mark for making all this happen. We battled it a bit here in Ball Arena the last couple times, and once again, Mark just comes up with the solutions and makes it all happen.
He makes the adjustments in between
That's
games.
right. That's so true. The king of adjustments in this series is neither coach down there on the bench. It's Mark behind the glass here. I'm going to leave it with this, Megan. I loved the comment from Pete DeBoer. Neither he nor Jared Bednar are going to impact what happens in Game 7. It comes down to the players. I'm really looking forward to this one, Megan. This is what the playoffs are all about.
Yeah, The Moose is loose.
The
They're going
Moose-
to be in a hostile building in Dallas.
Mhm.
But Cam Makar is just heating up, and Val Nichushkin has finally arrived in this series. So it's going to be an exciting one.
It's 50-50. Which team takes this should be a lot of fun. Nathan MacKinnon looking for his first ever Game 7 win. Pete DeBoer looking to keep a perfect record of 8-0, looking to make it 9, Megan, on Saturday. That's going to be a 6 p.m. Mountain Time puck drop. Game is in Dallas, so 7 o'clock local. I can't wait. Should be a fun one. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, hanging out another late night, slightly earlier on Saturday, so maybe it won't be so bad. She's Megan. I'm Jesse. We got Mark in here with us as well. Shout out to Chloe also getting everything done behind the scenes. Thanks so much, guys. Have a good one. We'll talk to you later.